I didn't really know what to choose. But then the timber floaters were really interesting because in Slovakia, I remember that we have also something like timber floaters in the past. There were people who used the rivers as well for kind of transporting the timber. So I was interested how this was different in Scotland, and I wanted to explore if there were any differences and what does it meant to them, to the people in Scotland. So I really started just with reading a lot about these people and what they did and how they used the river and what was the main purpose really. And then I think I wanted to see the river, so I found out that they used the Spey River, which is the fastest flowing river in Scotland. And what they've done is that they um, transported the timber from the forests of Rothiemurchus to the Garmouth, where the estuary is. Sorry, I'm kind of. And um, the Spey River is really long, which I didn't know. So thanks to Mary, which was she took many trips with me to go and explore the river from many different sites, and we looked at many different spots and interesting places that were connected with this story and with the man that who used this river in the past. So I found out that this transporting of timber began in 1600s and continued until early 1900s. And then the purpose for it was that they used the timber, they transformed it into railway sleepers, and then they transported it downriver. And then in Garmouth, the wood was shipped um, to other places in the Britain, and mostly to London, because in London in those times, in early, well, yeah, in 1800s and early 1900s, um, they were building railways. So once the railways were built, this transporting of wood has stopped because it continued via the railways. So that was something very kind of weird, and let's say it was a paradox for me when I started to think about this. Like when we use something and we didn't build the river, right? So we just use what was given to us and we use it, and then we leave it because we have built something else in order to continue doing the same what we were doing. So we use the river, we leave the river, and then now what we experience now is that we almost forget the river. So um, I think this was the main thing that I wanted to communicate, like what the river means now to us and what it meant in the history. So the whole process and my final pieces were really focused on the river and just the experience of the river. So for this purpose, I wasn't quite sure what my final piece is going to be, but it quickly kind of narrowed down, and all the ideas, thanks to guidance of Mary, and also we had many chats with Linda, Morag, and Stacy as well, which was really helpful. I kind of came to the idea that I would really like to do a film. I've never done well, film is maybe a too big word for this, but like little clip or something, like a video, short video. So I made a short video from different. I'm gonna actually play it. I can play it right now. So let me just put it share screen, and you can see it. Oh. Yeah, so that was the video that I took, and then I decided to project this video over a painting because I would say I'm quite studio based. Well, in the college, I'm creating all my stuff in the studio, so that was kind of natural to continue in that and just to take another canvas and produce something and then use this video to project it over it. And for the painting, I've used, I wasn't quite sure what to, I think the video was the most important piece from the whole installation. So that was the kind of focus. Um, and then the painting was just something that added the whole kind of materiality and more information about the river and about the story of timber floaters. So I've used little pieces of washed wood that we found with Mary on the banks of the Spey River. And then I've used pieces of wool from Johnstone's of Elgin because the timber floaters, they have they've used like woolen garments. So all of these pieces were stitched into the painting. And oh yeah, Stacy showed it. Thank you. So this is the final piece. You can see also. Thank you, Mary. She gave me that. That is actually a sleep. I think it's a railway sleeper, isn't it? The wood that is the projector is on the piece of wood.
It's
So,
actually a piece of a pier.
all right, okay. Yeah, so that was the whole piece in the gallery space. As we tried to install it, and these are some little pieces from the painting itself. So yeah, pieces of wool. Yeah, I guess that's kind of everything I wanted to share. It was really just nice to work on this because I feel that I've learned a lot really, um, from practical things like budgeting and time management of my own work in college and on this project as well. Also working on a large scale project. It was something totally new for me, and working in team, it was really helpful just um, to learn new skills, and also it helped me to learn and get to know the environment. Um, yeah, so I'm very thankful for this, and I hope that people can also take something when they're looking at the installation. Um, yeah, so I guess that's all. Thank you. Yeah.
Great, I'm sure you'd all agree that it was fantastic to see the range and actually the quality of the work that was produced. And it's so lovely to see it all today like that, and bring everyone back together, because I'm aware that we had that luxury of being together for quite a while and then we haven't, and it's for me it's been fantastic to have you all back in the room and to see that consolidated work. What I would like to do is I'd welcome you to all take 5 minutes, a very quick 5 minutes, to fill up your tea, get a biscuit. Please do leave your Zoom on. If we can come back for 5 to 12, and then we'll finish off with some questions, and feel free to pop any questions or reflections that you have in the chat function, and we can pick that up when we come back. But Linda, Morag, Rachel, Mary, thank you very much for setting the scene for us, and we'll see you in 5 minutes.
You're welcome.
Okay, I can see that the guys are back. Diane, are you with us as well?
Yes, I am.
Grand. Right, I think I'm just going to get started and people can start joining when they've got their cup of tea. So what I've done is I put together just a number of short questions for the team that I think will be quite interesting to explore, just that kind of wider context of the project. And I can see comments and questions coming in already. So I'm going to just get started. And I'm going to start with yourself, Morag. And again, Mary, I don't know if I can attempt that, the word alumni. It's a difficult one. But being a graduate of Murray School of Art, do you feel that this opportunity was approached differently by you?
I think the main thing that occurred to me was that I had more time to purely dedicate to the one thing, because I didn't have creative practice and research methods and lots of other things to think about. So I could just think about the one project, and that was really helpful for me. I might, this might not be true, but I may have a bit more understanding of my own practice and what drives it. Just because I'm a bit, had done my degree. And also it was really nice to be able to do a sketchbook in the way that I wanted to do it and not have to be thinking about a college sketchbook. So that's probably the main things. Thank you.
Sorry, I was having a problem with my mute there. Thank you, Morag. Okay, Linda, I guess kind of reflecting on what Morag has just said there, how did you manage that balance or manage that separation between the project and your studies?
It was quite easy because I just treated this commission as my job, and my student work was my learning bit. So I just separated the two, but because the nature of the theme, which was heritage and culture, which is a driving inspiration for my own work, it was kind of just an easy step just to move working with college stuff and into the commission. They just worked really hand in hand together, and it almost fueled both practices, if you know what I just, it worked really, really well. It was time management as well. And thankfully we had a January off. So in 4 weeks off of school, that's when I really delved into a lot of work, research work.
Yeah, I mean, I could even see that in how the project was influencing your practice and vice versa, but still keeping that distinct approach with both. So I think you actually managed it really well.
Thank you.
And Rachel, as someone, as you've mentioned, not from the local area, do you feel that this project has enabled you to connect with the environment and with the region?
Yeah, definitely. It gave me the opportunity to explore the place and go maybe even further. So I wouldn't be able to go that far away, like physically. So it was really, really nice for me just to get to know the place where I'm staying at the moment. And also, I think this was quite interesting for someone like me who doesn't live here. So I don't have any relations to this place. I don't see it as, like my family or my school or, all those connections that you have when you live somewhere. So that was like fresh place for me with no connections. So I think that gave me also another view on that place. So I was able to kind of see it as just to see it, because I feel like if I stay home, like where I'm now, the place where I was born, the place where I kind of lived for such a long time, I'm not able to see the place. So I'm not able to pick those interesting things from the place because I'm in it. So I think that was maybe something beneficial for the project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, part of me is quite ashamed that at one point I was like, Rachel is not from here and she knows more about the Spey River than I do. So you've made me check in on myself to go and learn about my own doorstep. So Mary, as an artist working and living in Moray yourself, did this experience open your perspective with regards to Moray School of Art? And you can be honest. You're on mute, Mary.
Okay, can you hear me? Yep. I've lived in Moray for 30 years, which is a shocking amount of time. And I haven't really had, I've dropped in and out of Moray College sometimes, but not really had any serious connection with you up until now. But what this project has done has shown how serious you are about preparing the students for life beyond college, because being an artist is far more than just traditional studio practice, which I think, for a long time art schools just taught you how to make art, but not any of the other stuff around being a professional artist, because not only do you have to know all the skills you need, which these days are very many, we've just looked at 2 films and you need to know new technology and all sorts of things, as well as traditional art skills. You need the skill, all the skills of being just a small business that any small business needs. But you also need those skills, perhaps that Linda was talking about, of engaging with people, and Morag of collaborating with the Cabrach Trust, and that you need to know how to collaborate and engage. You need how to present your work on Zoom presentations, for example, and websites. And so it was just so cheering and encouraging to know that you're doing all that. And I suppose in addition to that, I think, again, the 3 artists have sort of touched on how nice it was to be working in a group. I think artists really need other artists. And so both for the students and for Morag and I, sort of beyond art school, this has been just such a great experience. I mean, Rachel was talking about how she brought her fresh eyes to the project, and those days that she and I spent on the river looking were just such a joy, so I was observing Rachel observing the river. So I feel like as the college goes on and is contributing to a growing community of artists in Moray, I really hope that this will form a template perhaps for other involvements between the students and the artists living here, because I think it's really, really beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, I think I would reflect on that too, Mary, and that, I don't think we've done anything like this of this scale with regards to external collaboration and partnership. And we've also learned a lot around what works and what doesn't and what could have been better as well, like from an operational point of view. So if anything, I think this gives a really good springboard to look at that a bit more consistently rather than it being ad hoc. And your contributions really helped to that as well, I have to say. But kind of taking what Mary said and that whole practical skill base for the industry, Linda, do you feel more equipped now for your graduation this year to step out into the sector and to work in the sector?
Yes, I think it's been absolutely vital, this experience. I've learned so much from the other artists, from yourself, and especially for Mary. It's just how to conduct yourself in a professional manner. It's okay to be in your own little world and make the art, but how do you take that next step? And it all comes with just the experience of getting us opportunities to do a commission in a formal way. It's just vital for students to get that opportunity.
Good. I'm glad you feel more prepared. I hope it makes you less scared for when the graduation comes.
No.
I can see Bex as well of having that feeling on camera. Can I ask then, Morag, can I go back to you and almost from an opposite perspective as an artist embedded within your local community, did you feel any distinctions with this project in the context of collaboration and partnership?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm generally beavering away on my own down in the studio on my own kind of areas of interest. so to then go in and collaborate with the Discover Moray Great Places and with yourselves, yeah, I think just the experience was really good, and what I've learned from all of you has been incredibly helpful, like you were saying, Linda, and that I can now take forward in my own practice, things to consider. And having to work to a brief, you know, haven't done that before. So that experience is just invaluable, things that I've learned about doing that. And the opportunity to create links as well. And I think what I've discovered is that most people in organizations are genuinely really open to artists coming to talk to them. So I'm going to take that forward as well in my practice. Yeah, it's been a fantastic experience and valuable for me as an artist to take forward.
I'm glad that you've highlighted that, because I think it's a huge barrier. You think that people aren't going to get back in contact or aren't going to be willing to share, and actually I've found the same. It's a lot of the time the complete and utter opposite, and they're so open and welcoming and excited that someone wants to kind of build on what they know. So I'm glad that you picked that up too. So aside from the professional practice side of stuff and the kind of the process of the project, Rachel, do you have any reflections on how this has impacted your practice in any way?
Yeah, so I think this was something, as I said, I've never done film before, and I took this as an opportunity to really explore, to do what I want to do, and it meant to do really, I could make really anything. So I think this was maybe slightly something else from what I was doing in my studio as my creative practice at college. But I think this might be something that just opened the door for maybe next explorations of my work. So I think I might imply this in my just creative practice. So yeah, this kind of exploration of these new materials and combining the video with the video projection with the painting, I think this is something that I might just give it a try. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Rachel. And last but not least, Mary, I'm going to come back to yourself and just ask you how you found the role of being mentor, and if you would identify any best practice with the project, and anything that specifically worked well for you in that role.
Okay, yes, I'm glad you've asked that, because I think there were quite a number of things that, because the project ran very smoothly, leaving the pandemic aside, would never have presented themselves as issues because they'd been got right at the beginning. And I'd just like to sort of flag up the fact that it was a very good brief, that it was very clear in its expectation of all of us, but it wasn't overly prescriptive. So there was lots of room for the artists to make their personal responses and to develop ideas and, you know, go off down rabbit holes and pull it back and so on. There was room for that, but there was still this clarity of what we should all be working towards at the end. So it was a very good brief. And there was also clarity about all our respective roles. We all knew what our jobs were. There was no treading on each other's toes or wasting time being confused about who was responsible for what. So again, that was great that was just done at the beginning. The budget matched the work that was involved in the project, and no aspect of the project was missed out. So again, I think sometimes when people are not themselves artists, they don't understand that the research is the project, that everything comes from the research. And the research doesn't just mean finding things out, that means then developing how you're going to present that information that you're absorbing and synthesizing into whatever alchemical results you make. So the fact that the budget recognized the research aspect was fantastic. And I suppose also sort of going along with that and going on from the openness of the brief was also the sort of flexible approach of everyone, the open approach of everyone, so that although we knew we were working towards an exhibition, we didn't know what was going to be in the exhibition. and we were all responding to each other. You know, the artists sort of discussed together which areas of interest they would focus on so that they weren't duplicating, and I was able to support each artist in completely different ways, as their needs dictated. So I think that openness was really important, and flexibility. And finally, I just want to say I really loved being mentor in this project because I felt my role of bringing practical experience of commissions was clear and was useful, and that the defined outcome meant we were all working together with a common purpose. And I'd also say I really liked being a mentor as opposed to a college tutor, because I wasn't involved in assessing the students. And so I think that just made it a much less complicated relationship. I could just be as supportive as I wanted, as enthusiastic as I wanted. And I think perhaps because the students weren't being marked, maybe it meant they felt more able to take a few risks as well. So I think that was really, really valuable.
Good, thank you, Mary. And I have to say as well that I totally understand what you mean about the roles, because I couldn't have done this without you and without your input, support in the artists either. And actually it was lovely that you kind of just ran with that, and like you say, helped them all in extremely different ways, and you managed to pitch that so well. And I know that we're going to stay in touch as a team, whether you like it or not. I think it's happening. Just as I think we need to celebrate that work because it's just absolutely beautiful. So on behalf of the Murray's Great Places team and myself, I just want to thank you all for taking part and actually for producing the standard of work that you did. And it was actually a really easy project from my point of view, and it just ran really well. So we've got kind of 15, 20 minutes, and I'm going to open that up to discussion. And I can see that Diane has got her hand up. So I'm going to go to you first, Diane. Was that a mistake?
It was me clapping.
Oh, you clapping. That's nice.
There is a couple of questions in the chat if you want to have a look, Stacey.
Okay.
The last one from Bex.
Hiya. Do you want are we chatting?
Yeah, go for it if that's okay, Bex. We're a smaller group now, so you can feel that.
Work and wonderful experience that we just shared, and it's been really moving. I found it all really quite emotional, actually, some of it. And just thinking about that non-art world out there who are struggling away with what they're struggling away with at the moment, and just wondering what kind of legacy there could be from this. You know, it might be the folk that Linda was talking to on the pier, you know, that there's a way of outreaching to folk whose lives are being involved in the work in whatever way it might be, you know, beyond the art world. So just wondered if anyone had any thoughts about how to do that.
Linda, did you? Yeah, Mary, you can go.
Okay. Well, you know, at the risk of talking on other people's behalves, I know that Morag has been thinking about doing some guided walks up in the Cabrach, sort of art walks. And I suppose the challenge for all of us is to plan COVID-safe ways of interacting. But at the moment, what we know is that being outside is really safe. And I think for all of us, there's huge opportunity here, because this is all tied to landscape, for having creating some events that are tied to the landscape.
Yeah, I would echo what Mary said, and actually I think that you know, the reality is with projects of this nature is that sometimes they don't work, or you don't get the outcome that you might have first expected. But actually, from my point of view, this has been successful. The work is brilliant. The team have worked really well. And in my experience, that gives a huge amount of clout for going to do more stuff together. So actually, I think we have the evidence and the relationship and things there, and that dialogue to actually talk about what we could still do moving forward. So yeah, I think that there's the tangible legacies, you know, the catalogue and the work, but I think it will move beyond that. But I'm not sure I can answer how at this moment in time.
Well, I was already thinking that I would love to definitely invite Mary, but also the other artists if they would like to do art walks within the Murray Walk-in and Outdoor Festival for next June. So there's an offer already.
Boom, thank you, Diane. That would be great. And I can see everyone nodding their heads, so that looks like a winner. It's still a relatively small group on Zoom, so if anyone wanted to unmic with a comment or a question, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Stacey, can I just respond to two pieces in the chat? First one was to Mary. She says that photographing the context came like an added layer to the work. Is it something I would consider for the future? Yes. It did add another layer. In fact, it opened up a whole new way of looking at the work. And I actually think it added to the overall sort of experience. Rather than seeing the aprons hanging in a studio, they became quite lifeless. But once you put them against the harbour wall, there was another layer or another history coming up, and then the interaction with the folk, and then they relating their stories to me was amazing. And this was another layer. And like Bex has asked, is it something that I could add to my practice? I think it would be a beautiful way to just hear one story, and what happens is comes along several other stories, you know, with this interaction with communities. And you know, it was just a lovely experience just to walk along the pier and to see what I was doing, and then it unfolded again. So yeah, I think there's room for something in that area.
I think I have to say, when you said the Dropbox and the sheer volume of images that you had, and then you turned around and said to me, Mary, you know, do we need to get back together and I'll take photos for the catalogue? And we were like, no, you don't need to do any more. There's so much here. It's brilliant. And really, really stunning images. I actually think you've all done yourself so proud with the work that you've produced. Is there any other questions at all, or any reflections? Karen?
Yeah, I just want to say, during the break, I walked out of the room and I wrote down exactly my feelings at the time. I took a comforting deep breath. I had a sense of calm and a slowing down of my heart rate, and I smiled. And that's exactly how I feel about the work that I've seen today. And it does really make us think and remember about the different layers and looking at things on different levels, and actually getting back to the origin of things and the beauty of things, and never to forget that. So that's just what I wanted to say, and a huge thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think I can completely relate with that. And I've seen the work and I've been involved in the process, and even seeing it today, I could feel myself getting emotional, actually, even over a screen, which is really hard to capture actually when you're so far away from actually being in the space with the work. I wonder if the artist wanted to respond to that at all. Did you expect your work to have that impact?
No, that's lovely, Karen. I think it just, like, it's what Linda said at the end, about when you go somewhere, think about the past and the people that lived there. And certainly with my own work and research, I suppose it really did make me think about, made me think about the Cabrach, but also the wider area. And I love history anyway. I nearly studied history instead of art. So this was a real joy for me to do this project. But yeah, and you know, it slowed me down. And I don't know if I can quite quantify why it did that, but it certainly slowed everything down. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
There's been a really nice, there's so many nice comments coming into the chat, and just mentioning how inspiring the work is. And this is Richard just saying that he's been involved with some really nice projects in Elgin, and although he's now living in Aberdeen, childhood is in Elgin is a long life connection, and he's just thanked you very much for that and for bringing that back to the forefront. So we're almost at the end. Is there anything else that anyone would like to sneak in before we close up?
Can I just say one thing that has just occurred to me through this discussion, and that is the project really highlights the importance of people, which sounds incredibly blindingly obvious. But I think the fact that we have all bounced ideas off each other and sort of maybe learned from each other, looking at as the work developed, and then, you know, absolutely Linda talking to people when she was taking her photos. This discussion now, artwork isn't a product exactly. It's a cultural thing, and the artwork and the sort of the cultural context, to use a bit of jargon, sort of add together to become more than the sum of their parts. So it's just been lovely to be part of that process.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. And I think that there's quite a lot covered today. And actually what I would say to anyone that is interested in, you know, there's going to be the likes of the catalogue available. We are going to look to house a digital PDF of this online as well, so it's more accessible. For any updates around where work is stored or where it can be viewed, I would highly suggest following Moray School of Art's social media pages. So on Facebook and on Instagram, we will always put information up there. The films that you saw today, and I haven't spoke to the artist yet, but probably a selection of photos if you guys are all happy about it. You know, I'm going to put some of those on the MADE website. So MADE is Moray Arts Development Engagement. Again, I'll pop that up on social media if anyone wants to follow that and go back and consult those films at any time. But really, I think to finish, I just want to say thank you to Diane, because I know that this landed on you very short notice, and you were, as always, very accommodating to say, yeah, let's do it, we'll make it work. And it's been really brilliant, actually.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's just so interesting finding out about more artists in Moray as well. And I hope that we can find a way of supporting all of you in your future careers as well. I think that's really important, because you're exploring Moray in a completely different viewpoint from, you know, from maybe the tourism industry would see it, and it's much more interesting and wealthy and rich.
Yeah, and I think I'm just looking at the comments, and I'm going to end on one from Brian Bogue from UHI. He said that your work has reminded him of his earliest memories of the shoreline, and that there is a feeling that goes with that, and it's very powerful stuff. And I think that that actually helps sum up what you've managed to capture and achieve. So on that note, I want to say thank you all so much for coming along this morning, and yeah, follow social media, Moray School of Art, and you can, yeah, just kind of keep connected with what's next, because I think there will be a next. So yes, enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Can all breathe now. Linda, Morag, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Bye.
Bye.
Are we all staying?
I just wanted to say well done, everyone. That was really, really good. Of course, I already knew all about your work, but it just seemed so clear to me. And I think you can see from the comments, everybody got it. So that was wonderful.
Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. It was so interesting. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much.
Good
You're
project.
welcome.
Yeah.
Mary, I would just like to say that was a beautiful